Good morning, everybody. Haha. So happy to see you all. Mm, welcome. Can you hear me okay? Okay. I'm in my louder than usual voice. I'm not sure why, but maybe it'll stay. So let's start with meditation. Take your attention inside, all the way down. Oh, let's just go to the tip of the tailbone today. All the way down. And energy follows attention. So take your attention to the tip of the tailbone and allow all your thoughts to follow your attention. We're right in the root chakra, the root energy center. The source of our beingness, the root of the Kundalini energy. Breathe to that center. Allow your attention, your mind, to follow the breath down to the tip of your tailbone. Feel for the stillness between the breaths. Not exactly a stillness, it's a potency. It's very much alive, even though it's very quiet. But sometimes it feels agitated, and that's okay. Anything that we feel there is just welcomed. And we can watch it as information. We don't need to know what it means, just information. Hold your attention there. And just feel. Feel into the space between the breaths. And if you can't really make any space, that's okay. It's just we want to feel into what's real for us. There is no way to do this wrong. At a certain point, the energy will gather and just begin to rise on its own to the energy center just below our belly button. And for different ones of us, it's a half an inch up to an inch and a half below the belly button. It's different for each one of us. Just feel for that center for you. Breathe into that space. And hold your attention there in the space between the breaths below your belly button. This is the center of our courage. This is the place of our determination. Maybe commitment. Feel into that space and allow it to inform you. These are parts of ourselves that we don't normally access. Take your time. Our time together is about deeply accessing the parts of ourselves that we have yet to integrate. When you're ready, allow your attention to rise up to the energy center at the solar plexus. Breathe into that space. Hold your attention there between the breaths. Feel for the space between the breaths. And as you breathe, let it go all the way through the back as well as the front. Holding your attention in that energy center. When you're ready, gently allow your attention to go to the heart center in the middle of your chest. Breathe into the space behind your heart center. When you're ready, allow your attention to go up to the throat center. Breathe into that space and feel for the quiet between the breaths. And as we said earlier, you may feel agitation in these centers rather than quiet, and that's okay. It's just, it is the truth of the moment for you. Just information. And it doesn't have to have meaning. Allow it to be, but hold your attention there quite firmly. not in a way to restrict what's happening there, but just to be informed. If it feels tight, go ahead and swallow. If your attention wanders, bring it back to your throat center. When you're ready, gently allow your attention to go to the third eye, behind and between your eyebrows in the center of your head. Breathe into that space and feel for the space between the breaths. You may feel your energy rising up toward the top of your head. Allow that to happen. And see the huge flower, the 1,000-petaled lotus, surrounding the energy center at the top of our heads. And when you're ready, allow your energy to expand up to the energy center above your head, 6 to 8 inches. Maybe higher if you have a very long body. Hold your attention there in between the breaths. Now allow your attention to engage the flow of energy coming up and out your central channel in 360 degrees as it comes down, gathers again, and comes up your central channel from below. Bring your attention back to the energy center just below your belly button. Holding your attention there. Allow yourself to open your eyes. And when you're ready, we'll start the question and answer part of our program. See if you can continue to hold your attention below your belly button. Just as an experiment to see how that feels. To engage the outer with our attention on the inner. We welcome your questions. I can't always see, so if you have a question, just go ahead and unmute yourself. Or Brenda, if anything comes up with you, please just speak.
I have a question.
Yes.
Not really quite formed, so I'll just try and access. A few weeks ago, you talked about, let's see, I think there were 4 evolutionary or vibrationally human experiences or levels. I think you called them yugas.
Yes.
I didn't write them down, but that's that's what I remembered. And I wondered where we are at this moment, at this time, and what are the characteristics and like tendencies that those different, I'm going to call them levels, you know, kind of engender in us is a starting point.
Well, there are two ways to answer this question, both of which are to be understood as Vedic perceptions of sort of a collective field that may be different from a particular individual's experience at a given time. And there's some debate about that because our environment, of course, has a lot to do with our evolution, but it doesn't limit the potential for our evolution. It may limit the physical experience. For example, if you're living in a war zone, it doesn't matter how sophisticated your energetic capacity is in a certain way, you're still going to have limitations on your physical life and its ability to express itself. And that leads itself to a whole other series of questions and answers having to do with capacity to get out of a situation, see it coming, and be somewhere else before it happens. Or the conscious decision to stay and participate regardless as an act of service. So anyway, but that's sidestepping your question. So the idea of the yugas is that there are these certain time periods which are in the hundreds of thousands of years where human evolutionary experience happens. And the lowest level of this is called the Kali Yuga. And, you know, this is when there has been there's no capacity for socialization, really. Every man and woman or woman operates completely for oneself, for survival. And then I'm confused about which level is second and which is third. So it could be either of these Vedic names. One is called Dwapara Yuga, and the other one is called Tret Yuga. And the bottom level is Kali Yuga, the fourth level, and the third level, whichever one of those names, the human experience is evolutionary, and it comes to certain levels of human experience and capacity for community and less violence. And then there's the level above that, which we think at the moment is Tret Yuga. Although we're going on Rebecca's information, so that may not, the labels may not be right. And that level is beginning to be informed about spirituality, becoming aware of the power of spirituality. And then the highest level is when all of humanity lives from the awareness of love as our source. And there is great harmony and union of understanding at that level. Now, there are various astrologers who think that we're in the Kali Yuga, and other astrologers who think that we are in the stage above that, and that we actually reached that stage with the development of electricity, and that, you know, now that we have internet and things like that, that we're evolving. But it takes, you know, as we said, hundreds of thousands of years, and we're probably even by that estimation in the tens of thousands of years. But this is all theoretical. And then there's other theory on top of that that says that the individual has a choice within these yugas to evolve personally to a higher state than they were born into. So that in a nutshell is Rebecca's understanding today of this.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. And that was kind of a good clarification, and kind of what I was thinking along those lines, that in general, trying to find the highest best is a little bit like going against the current.
Well, it does seem like that, and especially when we look at the world from the perspective of the media that's feeding us. But if we understand the world more from our own perspective and the energetic field that we experience in this world, and the knowledge of the far-reaching effects of the people who have true accomplishment, many of whom may be on a mountaintop saying mantras for the entire world, we have no idea how many people of that capacity are working for our benefit, both in this dimension and in dimensions beyond humanity. Now, understand that everything comes from the same source. And so when we think of it in that way, then, and we understand ourselves to be an energetic field that is part of the whole, then there is nothing separate. And so having that understanding allows us to give ourselves permission to experience ever and ever more refined fields that are available to us, even though they may be beyond our ordinary senses. They are not separate, because everything is one thing. And so our experience need not be limited by what the forces we perceive to be outside of us are telling us. because they are unconnected to that whole. And so we don't know, just because they have a loud voice doesn't mean that they're the primary voice. They're just the lower sensory experience that we have available. So from that perspective, we don't need to hold it as a limitation or as a reflection of the truth of our situation. Although we do have physical bodies and we are subject to physical law, like gravity and the air we breathe and the water we need to drink, and the sources of our physical sustenance are very physical. But you understand, our spiritual perspective need not be limited by any of that. And at the same time, there is no separation between the physical and the spiritual. We create artificial separations to allow ourselves to be two places at once. What appears to us, because we live in a world that tells us that duality is the name of what's happening, instead of this pure union that is acting itself out in our sensory awareness. Does that make any sense?
Yes.
Good.
Yes. Thank you.
More?
Well, I mean, it just goes to how many things are going on at any given moment, depending on whether you're looking at time as a linear thing or
Yeah, of course, time is not linear.
right. So hundreds
Unless
of
you have a finite life. And then that's why we make time linear.
things.
But really, time is not linear. Health is not linear. The things that we assume are linear because of what we perceive to be external information coming into our field really limits our capacity to understand. And yet it's a little bit complicated to allow ourselves to be nonlinear in a world of duality.
Right.
This is the razor's edge.
Mm.
And we all fall off regularly. That's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. What a juggling act it is.
And yet there is a simplicity at the center. The place to be is in the center.
Mhm.
It's like being in the center of a tornado. There's a lot of wild energy, and the further you get out from the center, the more it pulls you out into a certain kind of dissolution where you can't make any sense of any of it. And it's really not an intellectual understanding we're talking about. It's that quiet that we direct you to in every energy center of our physical bodies, because in that quiet is the perspective that allows for non-dual and dual in the same moment.
Yeah. And it doesn't have words, as you've said.
It's beyond words.
Yeah.
We try to point to it with words, but it's hard to talk about because it encompasses everything. But the key concept to see, alignment is kind of a linear word, but it points to what we're talking about. The key to experiencing that is actually letting go, which we call allowing, because there is a very ever deepening awareness that we cultivate that leads to that center.
Mm.
And what we heard, a very interesting definition of karma this week. Karma is that which within ourselves, which has yet to be integrated. This is a Jungian definition of karma. That we attract experience to ourselves that makes us aware of what we have yet to bring into alignment, into harmony within ourselves. So we're sitting with that concept. And it's very interesting, as we work deeper and deeper in ourselves, we begin to encounter the ancestral experiences that are limitations in this current system that we're, dynamic system that we are as a human being. We've sort of talked about this before, but we'll share with you one Rebecca ran into recently, which is the belief that no pleasure can be experienced without punishment in return. That there's some balance system there, which is very Christian and not the truth. And it's so linear. That's one of the ways you can tell about truth. You can feel truth in yourself. Your real capital S self knows when there's something stinky about a concept, something icky. That's how it feels, just sticky. It's not right. So when you get that feeling, just stop. Just stop. You might have to walk away in the middle of a conversation. It means that you really don't understand. There's a part of yourself that has access to belief system that doesn't make sense to you. And so whatever you're engaged in, pull out of it as quickly and gracefully as you can. And then that's your work, is that place where you felt that sticky. You know, you may use different language for it, but it's like something's not quite right here. And then you sit and you ask for the truth. You suspend your judgment. And the pattern will become obvious to you when you're ready to see it. We hope that's helpful.
Absolutely.
So we'll give you just a glimpse of Rebecca's process with this, pleasure punishment thing, and then the idea of sacrifice came into that. And so she's sitting with these three concepts, waiting for them to explain themselves in a real way. And we'll say that sometimes we just give the answers, and sometimes it's better to allow the process. Because this process is something we are cultivating in ourselves that is the path of our evolution. And so the answers are available. This is what self-discovery means. Self-inquiry is another name for it. And the cultivation of allowing, which some people call surrender, letting go, not needing to control. There are all kinds of ways we can say it, because the truth is we have no control. We can have an impact on our own intentions our own attention, and our own actions. And in acknowledging that, you can see very quickly that aligning ourselves with the highest best in every situation is the only thing that makes any sense. So the allowing is the allowing to be shown what is the highest best in this moment. In this moment. In this moment. In this moment. And the only reason we are even led to ask these questions of ourselves is the grace of the source of our life. It makes this process available to us for some unknown magical reason that has drawn us to want to know. So are we out of step with the external world? Yes and no. We have noticed that very often people feel out of step with the family that they were gifted to experience their karma with. At the same time, all of us can acknowledge that those experiences are likely what drove us to inner work. So we can't exactly be too upset about it. As we've said before, often the greatest gifts come from our greatest experience of hardship and pain. Yes.
Good morning, Rebecca. It's Margaret.
Good morning. Happy to see you.
Happy to see you too. Thank you. Could you elaborate on wanting and asking for the highest and best for yourself when you're in situations with other people that you just pointed out we have really very little control over pretty much everything except our own intention, and asking for what is in the highest and best for ourselves. Can you elaborate on how then how we would, do we
Well,
also ask for the highest and best for the other people in the situation?
absolutely. Absolutely. And when you do that, you have to be prepared for that highest best not to be what the highest best for the other person, not to be what you consider the highest best for you. But with the understanding that the highest best for the whole will ultimately be the highest best for you.
So in asking for the highest and best for yourself, that ripples out to whether it seems to be or not the highest and best for all, if you're also asking for that as well.
Yes, and the key is you want to be always asking for that as well, because you don't want to be anybody else's limitation. That's karma we can do without.
So even if what we believe is in our highest and best appears to hurt or cause someone else pain, we still just wish the highest and best for them as well and let it be. That's hard.
That's hard. That's hard. Sometimes the answer to that is yes, and sometimes the answer to that is no. And the fact that you're asking the question means that you don't have clarity yet. And so in this situation, our advice would be to wait, to continue to do your own work until there's real clarity. You know, as long as there's mud in the water, no decisions are really appropriate.
But ultimately, we can't control other people's reactions to our decision to be in alignment with what we believe is in our highest and best interests.
Absolutely, that's the truth. Yes. And what will happen in that situation is either your commitment to your own evolution will get weaker, or your commitment to that evolution will make the other person more curious. But there is a place there's a place for being uncompromising about your own dedication to your evolution, to your personal evolution. And if the other person doesn't believe in the capacity for personal evolution, that's pretty difficult to live with.
Yes.
It means they don't believe in their own capacity for evolution.
Mm. And leading by example is really all we can do. We can't. Or can we? I mean, really, all we can do is extend the invitation and the offer and
Well,
let them make their own choice.
there's also the Anasa temple.
Mm.
And in the Anasa temple, we relinquish our idea of what the highest best is for anyone, including ourselves.
Mhm.
And part of the Anasa temple experience is to ask to be informed about what the highest best is. We're teaching you real life tools rather than just feeding you a solution.
Can I ask another question?
Yes.
So if you're offering someone you love, whether it's a friend, a partner, a child, things that could possibly help them and they're not choosing the help that you're offering, does it really just come down to clear boundaries for yourself?
It can. It can. There's a certain point where it must. You know, there is a place for tough love.
Hard for the tender-hearted of us.
Yes. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Heartbreaking. It breaks us apart to do that. And you do everything possible first. Everything. But it comes down to the person not believing in themselves. And we can't decide for another person that they must choose to evolve rather than devolve. There's nothing we can do except allow them to, just get so tightly wrapped that they can't stand it anymore. And then they begin the path of evolution. That's how it is for some people. I mean, all of us have probably been there one life or another, or, 1,000. I have no idea. So
true. Thank you so much. Appreciate you so much.
So welcome. Thank you for sharing so deeply. We love these questions. And understand every question that comes is one that we all have. It's just that you're the one who has the courage to ask it this morning. It's 11:11. Some people say that's a number for angelic presence. Yes.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Hi. Yes.
Well, these are difficult questions that we're talking about.
Yes.
I feel so much around that. And yet it's really is the core of what we're moving into. So it's just, it's very powerful and difficult. And I'm grateful that we are swimming through these. It's important. And I just guess for myself, they're contracts that have been established and just
they're
my
being
own
renegotiated.
They're being, which is absolutely necessary.
Absolutely. Because as we grow,
as we grow up,
around us has to shift.
It does. Yeah.
And if it doesn't, some of it is too challenging for other people in the moment.
It gets stinky, right?
It gets sticky.
There it is. Yeah.
And then we have to just get quiet.
Yeah. It tells you.
Yeah. And inquire into the truth of yourself. Go to the Inasa temple.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
yes, these are tools, you know, we want to give you tools for any situation.
Yeah. And you are.
Yeah.
It about covers everything really in one, really, I mean, in one big swoop. Yeah.
Well, we've always
Surrender.
said if it's not simple, it's not spiritual.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Because spirituality, at its essence, is simple.
Yes.
You just go
Yeah.
deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper,
Yeah.
and you don't stop.
Yeah. Now that's the commitment.
That's the
Well,
commitment.
you know, because it's working on you and you know what you need to do within yourself anyway, you know.
Yes.
And
And you continue to do that, and we serve others as best we can.
yeah, it changes all the
That's
time.
part of it. Yeah, it changes
Mhm.
all the time.
Yeah.
So this moment, what to do is different from that
Yeah.
moment,
Yeah.
which is different from the one that just passed.
Yeah.
And so
Which is
it's a
really
completely
wonderful.
dynamic system. Yes.
Keeps it new and you're learning all the time. You're where you're evolving or learning is different. So it's kind of the ladder
Yes.
and the highway.
And then there's living in the moment,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is when we're not bringing our past to
Yeah.
every situation.
Yeah, that's been happening lately. From the last few meetings we've had is just moving, just being in that open space more,
Oh,
not like
beautiful.
levels, you know, of having to think it through, but just seeing things in that wider open, just feeling that wider open space and that and
Yeah.
allowing that all to be.
And then it's a different kind of pain
Mm.
because there's
Yeah,
perspective in it.
yeah, right,
And
right.
it's not exactly that it hurts less,
Yeah.
but it does hurt differently
Mm-hmm.
from perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So thank you. I appreciate it.
We are
So
so grateful
appreciate
to
these.
participate.
Yes. And I haven't seen you all for a while. So hi to your other half.
Oh, sure. He's waving.
Thank you so much.
Oh, so grateful for your presence. Mm. And that goes to all of you, really. It's so much gratitude for being able to participate in this way. Hmm. So we're getting toward our time to meditate, unless there's something else. Anybody? Okay. Well, let's take our attention back inside, and whatever way you want to meditate at this moment is fine. And we'll just sit with you for the next little while and enjoy the space. So much gratitude. Thank you so much for being here today. Oh, totally, totally grateful. Oh, Wednesday night this week, we're going to be out of town. Sorry. But we did question and answer on Wednesday, and it seemed to work very, very well. So we will now be doing it Sunday mornings and Wednesdays at 7. So you're all invited, and tell anyone you think might be interested. We love this. But not this Wednesday. Yes. Okay, thank you so much. Bye for now.